Hello, how are you doing today? I wanted to talk to you before I start a morning of patience about experiences and how experiences can be flagged up as either being a good or a bad experience depending on how our brain interprets them. This can lead to physical pain, but also as well as that it can lead to mental anguish or mental illness. So I'll ask you, when's the last time that you had a new experience? Now to talk about the new experience and how this can affect us, we need a couple of parts of the brain. So we need the logical part of the brain, prefrontal cortex. We need also the temporal lobe, or the area that we store our memories, and as well as that we need our amygdala, which is where we store our emotions, where our emotions come from. Now, what happens when we have a new experience is this. We clock the sensation, so we understand the sensation. We then look back to our memory, our temporal lobe, and we ask, has this ever happened before? And then three, the few areas, which is where a few different areas of our brain interpret the meaning behind this, i.e. is this good or is this bad, for example. Now, an example in the write-up which I've written is, imagine a serial killer with a chainsaw in an alleyway. Now, if you spot this individual rightly, you'll be scared and you'll want to run, right? However, the sensation could be the same or slightly different if that individual was on a TV screen or alternatively on a stage. Now, someone who has never watched TV before, has never seen a theatrical production, will probably be just as scared as someone who encounters this individual whilst they're walking down an alleyway. Why? Because they don't know about the physical limitations of the theatre or of the TV screen. They might think that that individual could just climb out of the TV screen and grab them. So this is an example of how we can have very, very similar sensations, but because our memory functions differently, because we know the physical boundaries of the theatre, we know the physical boundaries of the TV, we can justify what's going on, and then our brain can calm the latter two, but will upregulate fear for the first, which is where you encounter that individual in the alleyway. Now, this could be exactly the same for example, someone who has bent over and feels a pop in their back. A lot of patients who I speak to who experience this, the pop comes first, the pain comes second. So what's happened here is that their brain has interpreted the pop as being problematic. However, if someone, for example, likes the pop because they go to their chiropractor or osteopath very regularly, their experience would have been quite different because they would have bent forward, they feel the pop, that's the sensation. But then after that, they tap into their memory. This happens subconsciously, by the way, and the memory comes up with the meaning, or the combination between the memory and their logical mind comes up with the meaning that popping can actually be a good thing. It's nothing to worry about. Your chiropractor or your osteopath pops your back all the time and it feels good. They carry on throughout the day. The other individual who might have had, for example, grown up seeing their dad in a lot of pain, with back pain, who says that uses quite catastrophic catastrophic language, such as my back's gone, my back's slipped, my back's out. They might associate that pop with their back moving out of place, and therefore they have a pain reaction. And for psychological reasons, imagine someone who has grown up getting loads of compliments and they feel very secure in themselves, and they walk into a crowded room and they see two individuals in the corner of the room whispering. That individual might have a very different interpretation of that in comparison to someone who has been bullied throughout their childhood. The person who has quite a nice history of being complimented very regularly, they'll interpret it as they must be complimenting me, I get compliments all the time. The person who's been bullied their whole life would probably say that that person is probably gossiping about me. That's not a very good thing. Now, the reason I wanted to tell you this is it gives you, I hope, power in understanding that an interpretation of events on a conscious or a subconscious level is very, very subjective. And because it's very, very subjective, if you change your perception, you can change the meaning. And if you change the meaning, you can change the outcome. But sometimes you need a little bit of help. You need someone who is a guide, a professional guide, to take you through this process, to try and create also fresh meaning. So for example, it could be that you've had a negative association with bending forward or picking things up, and that's because historically that has meant pain. So therefore we need to create fresh meaning, positive meaning in this context, and make sure that you're now associating picking things up with strength, with a sign, or almost a virtuous, that picking things up is a sign of virtue, is a sign of strength because you can do it. that is a very different meaning to the vulnerability that you might have had before visiting the clinic, for example, before going through that process with an osteopath or physiotherapist. Applying fresh meaning to what was previously a catastrophic experience is a really good way to go through rehab. And it's the same thing with, for example, cognitive behavioural therapy or psychotherapy. For example, by using exposure therapy and by changing the framework in certain experiences, we can then create fresh meaning. Fresh meaning means down-regulating fear, down-regulating anxiety, down-regulating depression when it comes to you going back into the experiences which previously caused you mental anguish, whether that is socializing, whether that is confrontation, making demands, negotiating, whether that is your relationship with your peers or your partners, etc. By changing the meaning in those experiences, or by changing the framework, by changing the control, and by tapping into your subjectivity, okay, coming up with fresh meaning, it's a fantastic way to get you well, to get you pain-free, to get you mentally well, and the rest, right? We're holistic individuals, or we're very multifaceted individuals, so we do tend to find that as soon as someone's pain's reduced, as soon as someone is feeling better in themselves, they're also sleeping better, they're more likely to have a healthy lifestyle. It essentially gives you back control. So have a think about what I've just said. If you need any help at all, if you need a guide to guide you through these processes, to create fresh meaning and good healthy meaning from your life and from events which were catastrophic before, then all you need to do is contact us at the clinic and we will be happy to help you. Remember that we offer free consultations. Thank you so much for listening and enjoy the rest of your day.